Hi everyone, it's Sarah. And oh my goodness, today is a big day. A really, really big day. Today, I am adopting a pet. I have wanted a cat for years. Years. Every time I walked past a pet store window, every time a friend sent me a photo of their cat doing something ridiculous and adorable, every time I came home to my quiet apartment at the end of a long day and thought, it would be so nice to have a little creature here to come home to. I thought about getting a cat, but I always had a reason not to. I travel sometimes for work. What would I do with a cat? My apartment is not that big. Is it fair to a cat? Am I responsible enough? Am I home enough? What if I am not a good cat owner? All the reasons, all the hesitations, for years. And then, about 3 weeks ago, I made a decision. I was sitting on my couch on a Sunday evening, the apartment very quiet, and I thought, I am ready. I have been ready. I am going to stop waiting for some perfect moment that is never going to arrive, and I am just going to do it. So I researched local animal shelters, places where rescued animals wait for their forever homes, and I found one with wonderful reviews just 20 minutes from my apartment. I called them, asked about their adoption process, and booked a visit for this Saturday morning. And here I am, Saturday morning, at the shelter, about to meet some cats and possibly, hopefully, find my cat. I am so excited I can barely stand it. Let me take you through the whole experience because adopting a pet is full of wonderful English vocabulary and it is one of the most genuinely joyful things I have ever done. The shelter was called Austin Animal Center, one of the largest and most well known shelters in the city. A shelter is a place that provides temporary housing and care for animals that have been abandoned, lost, or surrendered by their previous owners. Surrendered means given up, when an owner can no longer care for their pet and brings them to the shelter. The staff at the reception desk were immediately warm and welcoming. I told them I was interested in adopting a cat, and they explained the process clearly. First, I would fill out an adoption application. An application is a form with questions about yourself, your living situation, your lifestyle, and your experience with animals. The shelter uses this information to help match animals with the right homes. They want every adoption to be a good fit, not just for the person, but for the animal too. The application asked things like, do you live in a house or an apartment? Do you have other pets? Do you have children? Have you owned cats before? How many hours a day are you typically at home? What kind of personality are you looking for in a cat? Playful and active or calm and affectionate? Affectionate means showing love and warmth through physical closeness. Cats who like to cuddle, sit on your lap, and be near you. Cuddle means to hold someone or something close in a warm, affectionate way. I filled out the form carefully and honestly. I live in an apartment, no other pets, no children. I have not owned a cat before, but I grew up with cats in my family home, so I'm familiar with them. I'm home most evenings and weekends, and for personality, I wrote that I would love a cat who is affectionate and gentle, comfortable with a quieter home, and ideally a young adult cat rather than a kitten. A kitten is a baby cat, adorable, of course, but also very energetic, sometimes destructive, and requiring a lot of attention and patience. A young adult cat, between 1 and 3 years old, is often already past the most chaotic kitten phase, but still has many years of life and companionship ahead. Companionship means the pleasant feeling of having a friend or companion with you, not being alone. The volunteer reviewed my application, asked me a few follow-up questions, and then smiled and said, "Let me take you to meet the cats." The cat room was everything. It was a large, bright room with high ceilings, climbing structures, tall frames with platforms and ropes for cats to climb and perch on, and individual kennel spaces along the walls where the cats could retreat if they wanted privacy. Kennel means a small enclosed space for an animal. Retreat means to go somewhere quieter and more private. There were about 15 cats in the room. Some were sleeping in their kennels, some were sitting on the climbing structures, watching the room with calm, curious eyes. A few were moving around the room freely, investigating corners, rubbing against the legs of the volunteers. I walked in slowly and quietly. The volunteer had advised me to not make sudden movements or loud sounds, as some of the cats were shy and needed time to feel comfortable with new people. I looked around the room, taking everything in. A large orange tabby cat, tabby means a coat pattern of stripes and swirls in shades of brown, orange, or gray, was stretched out on a high platform, completely unbothered by my arrival. He looked at me briefly, blinked slowly, and went back to sleep. A slow blink from a cat, the volunteer told me, is actually a sign of trust and contentment. It is sometimes called a cat kiss. I loved that immediately. A small tortoise-shelled cat, tortoise-shelled means a coat of mixed orange, black, and brown patches, was sitting neatly in the corner of her kennel, watching me with large, careful eyes. She did not come forward. She was clearly more cautious and reserved. Two young tabby cats were chasing each other around a climbing frame with enormous energy, tumbling and wrestling. They were wonderful to watch, but they confirmed for me that kittens and very young cats were perhaps a little more chaos than I was ready for. And then, in the middle of the room, sitting very still on a low platform, looking at me with calm, steady golden eyes, was a gray cat. Medium-sized, short, dense gray fur, the color of a storm cloud, but somehow soft and warm-looking, white chest and white paws, a small pink nose, and those eyes, steady, curious, completely calm. She looked at me for a long moment, and then, slowly, deliberately, she stood up, stretched, stepped down from the platform, walked across the room, and sat down directly in front of me. I looked down at her, she looked up at me, and I thought, oh, it's you. I sat down on a low bench, and the gray cat climbed immediately into my lap. She turned around once, cats always turn around once before settling, and then she lay down, tucked her white paws neatly underneath her body, and began to purr. Purring is the soft, continuous rumbling sound that cats make when they are content and comfortable. It is one of the most soothing sounds in the world. I felt the vibration of it through my legs, and I thought, yes, absolutely yes. The volunteer came over and told me about her. Her name at the shelter was Luna. She was 2 years old. She had been surrendered by her previous owner, who had moved abroad and could not take her. She had been at the shelter for 6 weeks. She was described in her notes as gentle, calm, affectionate, and good with quiet homes. Gentle, calm, affectionate, good with quiet homes. She was describing me as much as she was describing the cat. I asked all the questions I had prepared. What did she eat? Was she vaccinated? Was she spayed? Had she shown any health problems at the shelter? Vaccinated means given vaccines, medical injections that protect against certain diseases. Spayed means surgically prevented from having kittens, an important and responsible procedure for pet cats that also has health benefits. The volunteer answered every question clearly and thoroughly. Luna was fully vaccinated, spayed, microchipped. A microchip is a tiny electronic chip implanted under the skin that contains identification information, so if a pet is ever lost, it can be identified and returned, and had been given a clean bill of health by the shelter veterinarian. A veterinarian, also called a vet, is a doctor for animals. Everything was perfect. Luna was perfect, still purring in my lap, completely settled, occasionally opening one golden eye to check that I was still there. I looked up at the volunteer and said, I would like to adopt her. She smiled the smile of someone who had seen this exact moment many times and never got tired of it. The adoption process itself was straightforward. I completed the formal adoption paperwork, a contract agreeing to provide Luna with proper care, shelter, food, veterinary attention, and a safe and loving home. I paid the adoption fee, a modest amount that covered Luna's vaccinations, spaying, and microchipping. Modest means small and reasonable, not expensive. The volunteer gave me a folder of information. Luna's medical records, feeding guidelines, advice on introducing a new cat to a home, and a list of recommended local vets. Then she helped me get Luna into the carrier I had brought with me. A carrier is a secure, enclosed box or bag designed for transporting pets safely. I had bought a soft-sided carrier, one with mesh windows so Luna could see out, earlier that week in preparation. Mesh means a material made of an open, net-like weave, allowing air and visibility through it. Getting Luna into the carrier required a moment of gentle patience. She was not frightened, just uncertain. The volunteer wrapped her gently in a small blanket and eased her into the carrier. Luna looked around for a moment, then settled down and looked out through the mesh window at me. I picked up the carrier. I could feel the slight weight of her inside, warm and alive and mine. I thanked the volunteer genuinely and walked out into the bright Austin Saturday. The drive home was quiet. I put the carrier on the passenger seat so Luna could see me. Every time I glanced over, she was watching me through the mesh with those steady, golden eyes. Calm, curious, already, somehow, completely trusting. I talked to her the whole way home, quietly, gently, telling her about the apartment she was going to, about the sunny window she would love, about how happy I was that she was coming home with me. I am fully aware that she did not understand a single word, but it felt right to talk to her. It felt like the beginning of something. When we arrived home, I set the carrier down in the living room and opened the door slowly. Luna walked out carefully, nose twitching, taking in all the new smells. She moved through the apartment slowly and deliberately, investigating the couch, the kitchen, the bedroom, the sunny patch on the floor by the window. She sat in the sunny patch for a long time, eyes half closed, ears relaxed, tail curled neatly around her white paws. And then she looked up at me, one slow, deliberate blink. A cat kiss. I blinked back slowly. Welcome home, Luna. It has been 3 weeks since that Saturday, and I want to tell you, having Luna in my life has been one of the best decisions I have ever made. She sleeps at the foot of my bed every night. She sits on the bathroom counter and watches me get ready in the morning with great seriousness, as if supervising my routine. She claims the sunniest spot in the apartment as her personal property and defends it with dignity. She greets me every evening when I come home, not with the wild enthusiasm of a dog, but with a quiet, dignified walk to the door and a slow blink that says, "You are home. Good." She has made my apartment feel like a home in a way it didn't quite before. There is something about a living creature who trusts you, who chooses to be near you, who purrs in your lap on a quiet Tuesday evening that is very difficult to describe, but very easy to feel. I am so glad I stopped waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment was whenever I decided to begin. Thank you so much for coming to the shelter with me today and meeting Luna. I hope this story was warm and fun and gave you lots of new English vocabulary. And if you have ever thought about adopting a pet, I would say gently but genuinely consider it. There are so many wonderful animals in shelters waiting for their forever homes. Luna waited 6 weeks for hers. I am so glad she waited for me. If you enjoyed today's story and you want to keep learning natural, real English with warm, everyday stories, please subscribe to Free Daily English right here on YouTube. New stories every week, completely free, made just for you. Just hit that subscribe button below. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, give your pets a cuddle if you have them, and I will see you in the next story. Bye-bye.